Man of the hour.
I think you planned it. So
You
make
planned it that way.
I didn't know I was the man of the hour. How are y'all doing today?
How are you, sir? Bob, would you prefer a chair? Would you like to sit?
No, I'm not stand up.
You know what? Why don't I put one over here, and if you get tired, you can use it.
Okay.
Oh, Susan did make it.
She did.
I can lean on it if I have to.
You
She
could.
was on vacation.
You could.
Maybe she was coming back.
What do you say, Cowboy?
Howdy. Hi. How you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Good.
Good to see you again. Yeah.
How'd that horse work?
He's working fine. I got him cutting like
Jump in here and grab us.
he's ready to go back to the arena. Yeah. He's already won 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And he's only 9 years old. He's got plenty left in him. He's a good looking horse. I need to get you to come over and take a look at it. I got another one that's his brother, his half brother. It's also a
Down before I spill it everywhere.
Son's a metallic cat.
Oh, yeah. That'd be a good horse.
Oh boy. And the cutter's 14-2.
Oh, well, I haven't got cold
14-3.
yet.
But he's 1,300 pounds. We weighed him on a cow. He's a tank. I wouldn't rope off of him, but he'll cut, like Ramp said. Boy, he's quick. I thought he'd be a big old lumbering dude. I got on him the minute I put him on the flag. He was back in the dirt. We'll have to get together and go take a look at him.
Yeah. Good.
And by the way, the coach of Cowboy is going to the Heritage Society. So when they get set up, I'll give you a nod when you come down and take a look at it. Good to see you.
Thank you for showing up to hear our good friend Bob Kahla tonight. Most of us know him as Cowboy Bob. And I'll tell you what, there's not an ounce of drugstore cowboy blood running through his veins. He is cowboy to the bone, just like his compadre Jim Hodges over here. He has the cowboy way of life has just been instilled in his very soul, a legacy passed down from grandfather to father to son. So please enjoy. I know you will. Bob?
Well, what it takes to be a cowboy in a pair of faded jeans, a dusty hat, or western boots all busted at the seams. It ain't his looks or what he wears, it's in his heart and mind. His manners, they're gracious, and his ways are mostly kind. His smile is quick, his voice is soft, he's got a gentle way. With children and with animals, he meets a long life's way. Tips his hat, forgives a nod to ladies that he meets. An outstretched hand he offers to each gentleman he greets. He's firm in his convictions, he's quick to lend a hand. With justice and with righteousness, he always takes a stand. To those about in need of help, his hand is never slow. Never boasts, never brags, never makes a show. Think of life without him. It makes me mighty sad. The reason is, you see, this cowboy's my dad. I was, when I was growing up, I rode bulls and bucket horses. We had a rodeo outfit and got into some pretty storm and breaking horses. Oh yeah, okay. I was breaking horses. I was had so many concussions that it's amazing the medical science I can even carry a conversation. I had a bull smash my head into a gate post one time over at the amateur rodeo, and I went into convulsions. And when I come to, I staggered out of the arena. Everybody was gone. Staggered out of the arena, and I said, "Hey, can I have a rewrite?" So the judge said, no more for you. Well, your entry fee's back. We figure you're due. Some sort of pay, some compensate. Thrilling the crowd, you sure done great. And then I've had all kind of wrecks and had my teeth kicked out and face reconstructed and had all kind of horse and injuries and lived to tell about it. On cow outfits, where I come from, the pranks and jokes was sure to come to anyone who ventured by and thought he'd stick around and try to make a hand and make a day, working cows to earn his pay. We had a horse named Jesse James, but sometimes called him other names. He'd stand so good he wouldn't fight, he'd pull the saddle tight. But if a cowboy took a dare and climbed aboard, he'd hit the air and pick, buck, and ball to beat the band and leave him sitting in the sand, thinking of new ways to say the names he'd made for him that day. And if a stranger came around, especially if he came from town, we'd smile and lie to him and say, our papa rides that little bay. Up to that bronc that stranger strode, across his back his khaki throat, he cinched him up with a stride, settled in that bronc to ride. That outlaw squalled and hit the sky. That landed hard, kicking high. Still on his back that twister sat and even fanned him with his hat. When the dust was cleared and gone and we could tell who'd finally won, our hoots and hollers died away. That stranger rode our horse that day. One Sunday afternoon after church, my wife and I were sitting around the house, and she said she wanted a clean house. And I wanted to take a nap and read the paper. So after I got through picking up the yard and cleaning up the house, I wrote this poem. I know that us cowboys are supposed to be tough, never do housework and dishes and stuff. We're supposed to ride horses and drive them big rigs. But if I don't help her, she calls me a pig. If I don't do dishes, the laundry, the floors, if I don't clean toilets and help with the chores, then she just might leave me. Then where would I be? With no one to cook for or clean for but me. More likely the doghouse is where I'd abide, scratching the fleas as they crawl up my hide and fighting old Rover for scraps of the bone. Only that dog between me and alone. So you can rib me and treat me unkind. Hoorah me and mock me, I really don't mind, because helping her out is the least I can do. After all that she does here for me and my crew. Me and the kids here, we know where we stand. With kisses and kindness and love that is grand. She works hard all week and she cooks and she cleans, and still through it all, son, she looks like a queen. So, boys, you can laugh, you can call me some names. But here with my sweethearts where I'll remain, working together through love and through life. And thank God in heaven for making my wife. My father-in-law said, that'll get you a ham sandwich every once in a while. You know, there was a lot of big ranches in southeast Texas. The White's Ranch, and I wrote a poem about that, and McFadden's and Heberts. But the Heberts had a. No, I was gonna do not the Heberts, but that was a big ranch, but. Too many.
Yeah, the Hebrews it's on your map, I think, the one that you just
Yeah.
made. The Heberts. What it used to be? Or what it is
It was
now?
Hebert's Ranch, and the Heberts bought their land in. They had a ranch over at Vitabo, but they bought their land from the Whites back in the 30s, and the land in Stowell, or actually Windshire, and that was how they got started there. But the McFadden Ranch was a big ranch. It was, at one time, it was part of the Saltgrass Cattle Company, 75,000 acres. and Broussard, yeah, Broussard, Hebert, and McFadden's all kind of had a big old outfit, 90,000 acres, and I wrote a poem about that. Gather round, boys, for my tale of woe, and I'll tell you about my troubles on the old mash stove. That was the brand. Mash stove was the brand for the. Tell you about the troubles on the old mash stove. Tell you about the horse that changed my ways and really put an end to my wrangling days. Down in the marsh where the bayou flows and the skeeters and the gators and the salt grass grows, was a lineback dun, stood 16 hands, and there on his hip was a mash stove brand. Cold as a cottonmouth, lean as a wolf, meanest old critter ever walked on a hoof. Hide full of ugly and chuck full of mean, was the rankest old bronc that I ever had seen. Well, the boss stepped up, says to me, on this outfit there ain't nothing free. You eat my chuck and you draw my pay. You'll ride old Dunny till the end of the day. All of a sudden I yearn for the sound of the streets of the city and the lights of the town. Hitting them high, down the trail I go, I'm a-getting me gone from the old mash stove. Well, I sweep pool halls from my bed now. There's no more chasing of the zebu cow. Of a cowboy's life, I want no more. Rather chick clean the john and sweep the floor. I have no need for boots or hat or chaps or spurs and none of that. I want no part no more, I know, for the broncs and the brimmers on the old mash stove. The kids, I go around the school subbing some now, and I used to go to had a lot of engagements where I'd go speak at the school, and I had they love to hear me cowboy rap. Me and old Pa and a buddy named Buck headed to a rodeo to test our luck. Riding bad bulls was on our mind. May the judge be fair, Lady Luck be kind. I drawed a big yeller, a Charlotte cross over my shoulder. Hear the shoot boss spit and a cuss. He gives me a shout, said, "Rig him up, boy, we're turning him out." Well, I get the rope wrapped around that brute, and Buck pulls my rope from the back of the chute. "Don't worry, old pal," he said with a grin. "We'll notify your next of kin." Down on his back, the rope pulled tight, take a suicide rap, get ready for the fight. Release the beast, I'm ready to ride these horns and hump and hooves and hide. First jumps out, and then he jumps in. Back in the chute and into a spin. Throws me up and he throws me down. Me and that bull going round and round. Then he whams my head up against the gate, slams my gourd with all of his weight. My lights go out and the world goes dark. Know my head has left his mark. That bull, he stomps me in the ground, leaves me for dead, and then he runs a clown. I thrash and groan and eat some dirt and a smashed up hat and a bloody shirt. Stagger to my feet to stumble outside and holler at the judge, "Can I have a re-ride?" Judge said, "No more for you. Your entry fee's back we figure you're due. Some sort of pay, some compensate. Thrilling the crowd, you sure done great." When I find Buck, he's pale and white, just like he said, a ghost tonight. He said, "That bull really smashed your head. Sorry I left, I just figured you was dead."
For those who don't know, that story includes Buck Hamilton.
Oh yeah. And Taylor White too. Taylor was out at the car when I finally staggered my way out to the car. And first thing I remember, I don't remember any of the other, but first thing I remember was Taylor had some Jack Daniels, so I took a shot of Jack Daniels and everything got clear. So then we went to the Big Oaks over in Louisiana.
Bob, was it your dad or your grandfather that started the rodeos on High Island?
Well, my dad produced rodeos, but my grandpa produced rodeos at Patton Beach on the Bottle Peninsula. He had rodeos there, and of course it was way before I was born, but they'd get some steers out in the pasture and put them in a pen, and they'd have steer roping. Not shoot without a chute, you know, it was just steer roping and bronc riding. And Sweet, my grandpa and Sweet Kahla were the ones that did that, and they didn't charge a gate fee, didn't charge a admission. but they'd butcher an old Jersey cow, a tough Jersey cow, and put a lot of barbecue sauce on it, hot sauce on it, and then sell beer. And that's how they made money.
Oh, jeez.
Now, did they live down there?
Yeah, my grandpa at that time lived there, but he moved before he married, and he and my grandmother moved to Stoll.
Still.
And he had rode out the 1900 storm in an attic of a house, and it floated 2 miles, and so he never would stay at Stoll anymore. I mean, just during the day, you know, he wouldn't stay overnight. Scared the heck out of him.
Now, you still kin to all the Kahlas down there? Or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you kin to a lot of them.
Some I know and some I don't know. But yeah, sure. All originated. The Kahlas down there all originated from Charles William or Carl Wilhelm. He was a German immigrant. Actually, his father was an immigrant. Was supposed to claim land when he got to Stoll. Got to Bolivar, but he died of scarlet fever on the beach and couldn't claim his land. So he was so his wife married a Beckstroff, who was a Dutchman, and raised my grandpa. And sometimes when we have family reunions, I see the Beckstroffs come to the family reunion. And I've met them. But my grandpa had about 1,500 head of cattle, and they was all wiped out in the 1900 storm. So he get longhorns. So he got together another 1,500 head, and the 1915 storm wiped them out. And he said if he lived long enough, he'd have another herd.
Did they, is that your old home place there in Stoll? Is
Yeah,
that where
that old house is actually it was built by Thornton. Andy Thornton's daddy built that place, had it built, you know. And the lumber to build the house, the hotel, came from Louisiana, and my grandmother was a Dugal, and she was raised in Finette. Well, she was started out in Louisiana, but then they moved to Finette. And she remembers the wagons coming through with lumber to go to Stoll and build a hotel. And then they did build a hotel, and her and my grandpa in 1915 they bought the house.
Now, did they run a boarding house
Yes,
there? They
worked
were.
hard,
Yeah.
ran a boarding house. The priest stayed there when they first had the first church, the first Catholic church. The priest stayed at that place. A lot of oil field workers and working people.
How many horses do you figure you've trained and broken over the years, Bob?
I thought about that. About 4,000 or 5,000. Yeah.
Tell them about Pepe's Quattro.
Yeah, Pepe's Quattro was a horse that came from King Ranch, and he was a great horse. And my son went to high school, qualified, and went to high school national finals on him. And we went to Wyoming, and then we went to Illinois. But he was a great horse. He was really a good horse. And he would work a cow without a bridle. Just put him on a cow and he'd work it. He was just a real smart, intelligent horse.
Wasn't he 20 years old when he won that? The horse?
Oh, he was 23 when we drove all the way to Springfield, Illinois. Hauled him up there, showed him there. Didn't win just because we didn't have good cattle. But we rode, but we went all the way to Springfield, Illinois, Then we drove all the way back, taking turns right when my son was a senior, taking turns driving, and then it was there was a cutting it at Crockett. So we entered, missed the open, but got into 10,000 and won it after driving however long it takes to go from Springfield, Illinois, all the way up to Crockett, Texas. Got the horse out, brushed him off, saddled him, rode in. Howdy. How you doing?
Doing well.
Good.
Glad to be here.
Now, did y'all raise him from a colt? Or?
Actually, this is what happened. He was the highest selling horse in the King Ranch sale that year. And Felix Jackson bought him. He had just sold a racehorse for $75,000, so he had some extra money. So he bought the horse and brought him to me to train. So I started training him, and Bill White and I bought him. And we bought the horse, and then showed him quite a bit, and he did real well. And then I bought him from Bill, and we bred quite a few mares to him. He was a real good horse, and real gentle. I mean, he was full of life. You know, he's just jumping around, not happy all the time, but he was a real gentle horse. I mean, he wouldn't hurt anybody.
Your dad was quite a cowboy too, wasn't
Yeah, he was. And my dad had a rodeo string. That's how I got started riding bulls and booking horses. We had an arena there, a practice arena, where we'd try out the horses and bulls, and got smashed a few times there. But we had to put on rodeos all over. The last one we put on was Kahla, Louisiana. But we went as far as Alabama and Mississippi and Louisiana and Texas. We had no bull called White Lightning that went to the national finals.
Bob, where you know, I know where you live,
Yeah.
but was your arena back behind your house?
Well, the old place is where we did the horse training and the horse riding, and the old place is in Stowell, and of course we live out north of Winnie now.
Oh, well, I didn't know you'd moved uptown.
Oh yeah.
But, I mean, so was it behind the hotel?
Yeah. There was an arena there, and it was fixed up where we could buck bulls in there, and some pretty bad fighting bulls. Put them in the, we had chutes, you know, where you could, just like rodeo.
Yeah.
They had 4 chutes in there, and I got on lots of bucking horses and bulls there.
Who was your favorite horse?
Peppy. Peppy was my favorite horse. He was the smartest horse you ever saw. He was a smart son of
Did
a
your
man.
children ride him?
Oh yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, my kids could ride him, or did ride him.
You got some great poems in this book, Bob. What about the days of my youth?
Son, I recall now the days of my youth, back before I got so big, long in the tooth, big in the middle and gray in the hair. Come sit down beside me, my story I'll share, of days when I rode for the half-circle M, where the living was fine, but the wages were slim. The hours were long and the work was hard, but we went to bed tired and woke up next morning just feeling so fine. You'd have thought that our coffee was souped up with wine. Working the cows and feeding the stock, we never had time for a watch or a clock. Been my ambition and I had a row. My ambition won. Would you look at me now? Sitting up here in a suit and a tie in a cubbyhole office up next to the sky. My car has a chauffeur that treats it with care, Anyway, that was about the days of my youth. Of course, I didn't go to the high rise. I didn't want to. I did have a job though. When I first got out of college, I had an animal science and a biology degree. And when I got out, I got a job quickly because I had a wife and baby. And my baby's right there. And we had
Do you need a chair, Bob? Chair right behind you.
oh, I'm okay.
The rest of us are sitting, you might as well.
What? She didn't like it. She never watched me ride. Never. And I rode for 20 years. I got smashed quite a few times. And, she never watched me ride.
How many books?
Huh?
How many books total have you written now?
5 books.
5.
Yeah.
That's good.
And
They're
you
all
worked
good
for
ones.
White's Ranch a lot, right?
I did. Yeah, I did. Especially breaking horses.
And you wrote one of them called "What It's Like," what it takes to be a saltgrass cowboy.
Oh yeah.
So maybe everybody'd like to know kind of what it's like on a long day out there in the saltgrass for a real working cowboy.
Well, when I worked for White's, I didn't work full time, because I had all those horses I had to ride. So, but sometimes I'd work for them like every day for a week, and then I could ride my horses in the evening. But it was daylight till way after dark. Working. I'd usually help when Bill was going to go on some kind of safari or something. He was going to go on some kind of trip. Well, then he'd need extra help, so I'd go help him. Or when they had a hurricane, I'd go load up my horses and go over and help him move the cattle when there's a hurricane.
What about before Interstate 10 when you and your dad?
Oh yeah. One time, of course, yeah, we all probably remember that, but one time my dad and I drove down the highway going 1406 down to, we had a little pasture we had rented, leased pasture, right there at the Liberty Chambers County line, right. And I was 11 years old, or 10 or 11, and he and I went down there with a truck, a bobtail cattle truck, because that's what we had back then. Didn't have trailers in the old days. And backed the horse trailer into the truck into the ditch and unloaded our horses. Went out in the pasture, gathered up the cattle, probably about 150 head. Put them on the road and started driving them. And there wasn't hardly any houses there. And my dad would lope ahead and get in the gate if there was an open gate. And we drove the cattle all the way to where Interstate 10 is now, on over to Franzen Road, which goes to the airport in Winnie. And we drove the cattle down that airport road, the Franzen Road, and put them in that pasture. He and I with about 150 head of cows. And I was about 10 years old.
How old were you when you started riding?
Riding?
Yes.
I was 40 years old, 40, 41. Yep.
They brought cows up down from Seabreeze too, up 124.
Oh yeah.
I went out there and met Daddy and Uncle John, and
Oh yeah.
Daddy let me ride on the back of the saddle for a little while. Mama had sandwiches for everybody.
Oh yeah.
Here at the rice dryers.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a long haul. That was dusty. Whew.
Oh yeah.
They were all covered in dust and everything else. I don't know if you just seen them.
That's true. We had
I don't see how you can remember all these poems, Bob. Can you remember the one leading horses from the White's Ranch?
Yeah, I can. I got to get started with it first.
I was riding broncs for
I was
the
riding
W
broncs for
Cross.
the W Cross, which was their brand, the White's Ranch brand, W Cross. I was riding broncs for the W Cross when between me and them weren't no love lost. I wasn't fond of them, and they most surely must have hated me. I knew they did by the way they'd fight and buck and bellow with all their might and fill my life with pain and misery. I caught this snake one summer day and started out to earn my pay. To think a cowboy's what I thought I'd want to be. Them was the days of lawn disease. And if you don't know about that, I'll tell you about it later. Lawn disease and
The cows would
the
chew up
cows
bones
would chew
and
up any cows would chew up bones and anything else they thought might give them ease. Well, I roped this cow with a bone in her mouth and I laid a trip and I headed south. I'll show you how that outlaw really broke an egg in me. We stretched the twine and we laid her down before my foot near hit the ground. He broke in two and went as high as any horse could ever be. He bucked and he bellowed and he swallowed his head and I thought, oh no, this time I'm dead. Saltgrass claws, saltgrass gator holes as far as my two weary eyes could see. Well, I landed face first on the ground right by a big old muskrat mound. By now the taste of mud and dirt was nothing new to me. When I come to and began to talk, I told that bronc, for that you'll walk. Back to White's Ranch you'll walk, you wait and see. Well, I led that horse 10 miles that day. I guess I really made him pay. I showed that horse there ain't no bronc can get the best of me. But anyway, the lawn disease, some know about it, some doesn't. I've seen it, probably 20, 30 years ago I saw it. But it kind of was wiped out because all you have to do is feed them phosphorus and it cures it. But without phosphorus, they'll get down in their back end and ride up in the front and try to get up and can't, and if you don't treat them, they die. Anyway, that was why
Don't pass it around.
So, Bob, what are your thoughts about today's cowboy?
Oh, I think they got their own way of doing things.
He's being nice.
Are they cowboys in your mind?
Well, probably are in their mind.
In their mind.
Yeah. I don't judge anybody about being a.
Bob, who was the toughest cowboy you ever worked with?
Yeah.
Oh, Elton Leday. And Elton was a tough guy. He worked for the whites, and he'd get in a jam pen when they was loading cattle in the chute with a walking stick. And you could hear him holler a mile away. He'd holler, yeah, and hit him on the horns with that walking stick, and they'd hit the chute. They'd try to hook him, them old longhorn cows, and he'd whack them with that walking stick and make them change their mind. Elton was a tough one, boy. And they and Mr. Jim White lived right across the way from my grandmother's place, or grandfather's place. And so Elton would be loading the horses every morning at 4 o'clock to go down to White's Ranch to work cows. And you could hear him holler. Because he'd be hollering at them and whipping those horses, making them run up that ramp in that bobtail truck, because that's what we hauled them in, was a bobtail truck, didn't have trailers.
It like has a really steep gate on it, tailgate on it. I mean,
Yeah.
It's almost like this, you know.
Elton was a tough one, but he had, some years earlier than that, he was at a bull. He was a bull riding at Cheeks, and a bull hooked him in the head, and he was paralyzed, and they were hauling him to Galveston, the hospital, because Beaumont wouldn't take in black people. So they were taking him to Galveston, and he told me, he says, I wanted to tell him, I'm okay. He said, because he couldn't talk, he couldn't talk, and couldn't do anything. and they were taking him to Galveston. He said he heard the doctor say, "Well, I don't think he's gonna make it." I said, "Oh no." Said, but when they lifted that skull, part of his skull that was caved in off of there, that he could talk and.
That's amazing.
He told me there was a lot of stories about stuff like that, you know. He was quite a cowboy. Rough man, rough, tough cowboy.
And what was his first name again, Bob?
Elton.
Elton?
Elton Leday. Lived at Cheeks. It's not Cheek, it's Cheeks.
Chicks. That's right. Just down the road.
What horse or cow, what were you doing when you went to the Liberty Hospital and they sent you home?
Oh, I was at a rodeo in the Liberty Rodeo, and you know, like they have rodeo every year at Liberty, and a horse kicked me in the head, knocked me out. So they loaded me in an ambulance, took me to Liberty Hospital, and they told my wife, said, "Take him home. He's hurt too bad. We can't do nothing with him."
We'll just let him die at home, huh?
That's the truth. That's the true story. They said, "He's hurt too bad. We can't do nothing with him. They didn't want me to die there when they were called."
Who were some of the other cowboys you worked with, Bob, that you might make mention of?
Jake Phelps was a real good cowboy.
Yeah.
Jake was a top end.
Where was he from?
He was from actually Stoll.
Stoll.
Yeah. His mama ran a beer joint, and his daddy was dressed like a cowboy, but he didn't do much cowboy. No.
I'm Bob's daughter. When I was a little girl, he was riding bulls and frogs, and I would holler at him. If he got bucked off, he'd be so sad walking back with his head down, and I'd holler, "Hi, Daddy."
She didn't care if I got bucked off or not.
Aw.
How about Saltgrass? Did you already tell them about the menu at Saltgrass when Saltgrass?
Oh yeah, I wrote the poem for the menu of at Saltgrass Restaurant.
Huh?
And
When Saltgrass first opened, they asked him to write a poem, and they had it on the menu for about 10 years.
Oh, wow.
I think it's gone now, but
Is it in that book?
no. No, I've got a copy of it, but it's at my house.
How about that commercial you did with Mattress Mac, Bob?
Oh yeah, I did a commercial with Mattress Mac. And, yeah, a cowboy out here in the West at Gallery Furniture made this request for a mattress. Of course, it is made for a horse, and he pulled a big roll from his vest. Mac said, "Listen, Sonny, around these parts you don't need that much money. It's your day of good luck. We can save you a buck, because Gallery Furniture will save you money." It was on TV all for a couple of weeks before the rodeo, you know.
Oh, that's
You know how they
great.
play it over and over and over and over.
That's great.
How many years were you doing Charlie Pruitt show in Bowman?
Oh, years and years. I don't remember how many, Terry, but I did.
What? Tell us about
Who's
that.
Charlie Pruitt?
Charlie Pruitt was a entrepreneur, and they had at the Jefferson Theater in Beaumont, he'd have singers and dancers, and mostly singers, to come on that show. And it was kind of like a opera show, a little Grand Ole Opry deal, but it wasn't big like that, but it was. And I'd go on the show once a month and tell a couple poems. And, huh?
She had to get up.
Oh yeah.
Well, what year frame was that? Years were that radio show? What was?
It was a television show,
Oh, television show.
and it was in 90 to like 94, 90, something like that.
In the 90s.
in the early 90s.
Bob, what style did you use for training and breaking horses?
The cowboy way.
That's the only way.
You just have to judge your methods by what the horse did. Some horses I just put a saddle on them, get on them, and ride them. If they bucked a little bit, oh well. But then some, I had to work with them a little bit, run them around with the saddle a little bit, let them get the buck out of them before I get on them. I didn't when I first started. When I was 16 or 18, I just get on them and want them to buck. But then I started trying to calm them down a little bit before I got on them.
Was there ever a horse that couldn't be broke?
Oh yeah, sure. There was a few. There wasn't any that I couldn't ride, but couldn't get on and ride. But they wouldn't. It wasn't a. They were never going to make a useful horse. This one guy, and I can't remember his name because I can't remember nothing anymore. But anyway, he brought a mare by there, and I got on her and she bucked, and I could ride her, but he couldn't. I knew he couldn't ride her, and so I rode her for about 6 weeks, and finally he said, I want to take her home. I said, well, you can't ride her. He said, yeah, I'm gonna ride her when I get her home. I said, no, you need to ride her here if you're gonna ride her, so I can pick you up whenever she throws you off. And he said, no, I want to take her home and ride her. So he took her home and rode her, and she threw him off and broke his shoulder.
Oh.
I tried to tell him. And I could ride her, but I knew he couldn't.
Now, do you just train working horses, like?
I've trained everything that you
Just
can imagine.
whatever.
I've had barrel horses and pole bending horses and roping horses and cutting horses, a lot of cutting horses, and a lot of ranch horses. A lot of horses just useful horses for people want to ride, just want to, and some for their kids and some for just useful horse, just trying to make a useful horse out of them. And I even had some draft horses, giant shires, big old horses. I had one that was mean, must have been abused because all the rest of them were real gentle. But that one was real bad. You get real kind of from here to there, he'd start kicking. He was it must have been abused in his life because he was a bad horse. I sent him home. I sent a few of them home. Most of them I could do something with them.
Now the shires, what were you training them for? Just to ride?
Just to ride.
Just to ride.
Just to ride. I had two little mules that I pulled a wagon with, and I'd go around to schools and go to the church and haul the kids around with my little wagon. But I never did train anything to work.
The little mules were a trip.
Oh yeah, they'd run off. Somebody had abused them before I got them. And when you got on them, I had to get somebody to hold them till I could get on and get my hands on the harness because, I mean, they would run. They start running, taking off, wouldn't they, Terry?
They would. The first time you took them, you left Stoll and you ended up, what, at I-10?
Oh, geez. That's a good run.
Kate Hamilton said, where we going? I said, looks like United States 10.
Would they just give out, or would you finally?
They'd finally slow down a little bit. And my hands would be hurting so bad from holding the line.
Oh,
And when
boy.
he had them, lots of people wanted, like if they had a wedding in town and then they had a reception.
I did a lot of that, yeah.
They wanted him to come in the wagon and pick them up.
Yeah.
I'd have to warm them up pretty good first.
One day he asked me to help, and I didn't realize what he was asking me to do because I was the one that had to stand in front of the little mules and make them be still while he tried to follow. And then I had to jump in really fast. But when the bride and groom came out, everybody said, "Oh, we want to take pictures and throw rice." Yeah, that didn't happen.
There's a wild, I'll tell you, there was some wild mules on. It was so much fun. And Kate Hamilton's a big boy, you know, he's probably 6'5", big, stout boy. And he was my swamper one time at the rice festival. I had several times I took the mules on a trip on a rice festival, and he was my swamper. He would jump out and hold the mules if I wanted to stop, because I couldn't, just holding the lines wasn't enough. And so Cade, we was going. The parade was over. We was going by the announcer stand, and I had the president of the rice festival and his family in the wagon. And everything went pretty good. The mules would rear up, went and paw in the air whenever they played the Cajun music, and they were right behind us. And so we stopped in front of the announcer stand to introduce the president of the rice festival. Well, when that loudspeaker came on, the mules reared up and lunged out and took off running and threw the president of the rice festival back on his back in the wagon, and the mules took off. They wasn't real happy with me.
Is that in old downtown Winnie or?
No, that was at the park.
It was at the park.
Oh yeah.
He used to take me and my little brother and little sister to school on horseback.
Oh, how cool is that? Yeah.
Oh, that was fun.
And Terry's horse pooped in front of the principal's office.
I thought it was hilarious. I was about a sophomore in high school.
Did you have to clean it up though?
No, ma'am. Nobody said who did it. We got there early.
Luke was 4, and when we got to daycare where we was going to drop him off, the little kids were all out there waiting, and they said, "Boy, Luke's a real cowboy." Here was a little 4-year-old kid with a big hat on, a big bandana and everything, waiting to daycare on horseback.
That is cool. Doesn't get any better than that.
What time did we leave to get to the school? Do you remember?
No,
Like 5:30 in the morning? Probably?
I don't really remember. We just,
From
Yeah.
Stoll to Winnie? I don't know, maybe 2 miles? Yeah.
it didn't take us long.
And he didn't cinch his horses real tight, so my sister and I were riding one horse, and our saddle rolled under, and we were under his belly in the ditch. The horse is fine, he's just standing there waiting.
Well, I had the kids on real gentle horses. Real gentle horses. The kids on them.
Bob, I want to tell you right now, Elton Leday is watching. He's watching live. Yes, it just came up. So you want to say hello to him?
Yeah, hello.
Mr. Leday.
How you doing? Hello.
Yeah, he's watching.
Well,
Okay.
good. Yay. I'm so glad. He's my good friend.
Yeah, toughest cowboy he's ever known.
Yep. He used to come by and see me quite often.
Yep.
What grade was he in? And was he in Winnie? What school or?
Who is that?
Elton.
No, Elton was older than I am. Elton was a grown man. And Elton, now he had a son named Elton.
I was
Maybe
going
that's
to say
the one
that
you're
name's
talking about now.
familiar.
Because I heard that Elton passed away. I really did. I heard
Cheeks,
Elton
yeah,
had
they're
passed away,
cheeks.
so I was surprised when you said that. But I'm sure it was his son or his grandson.
You know his son, Junior. Yeah.
Yeah.
Junior, I'm 72, Junior 70.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see. That'd be about right. There you go. And Ben Johnson worked on all the big ranches, and he had said he couldn't eat any dinner when he's working for Whites because the horse he's going to have to get on that day was out there bucking with the saddle. He was losing too much weight. He had to quit. But the Whites had bigger horses. They had remount stallions from the in the 20s when they had horses that they used for in the war. They had remount stallions that they turned loose in people's pasture and raised the horses to for the army. And and so those horses were bigger and harder to break than the little bitty prairie ponies that McFadden's had and some of the other ranchers.
What about the food, Bob?
Food.
Yeah, I was talking to Leroy Easer about how he used to feed the cowboys.
Oh yeah.
What do you remember about anybody that
I
fed good?
I remember eating green bologna off the green bologna off the back bed of a pickup.
Oh.
They'd been there all night, and next morning they was hungry, so they ate green bologna.
Finer fare.
Better than being hungry.
It's true. That is very true.
Well, Bob, this has been great. And if y'all want an extra treat, Bob has some of his books available for sale tonight. If you want to take a look at them. And
Oh yeah.
yes, yes. I
And,
know Angelina Davis would like to have a copy. So
This
Yeah.
book is with the poems and stories, like what we're talking about today. And the brown book, the hardback, is a story I made up about cowboys in South Texas. And it's about a young cowboy that grew up to be a bull rider, and his friend got to be a calf roper, and they had some pretty bad wrecks in their endeavors. But
So it's historical fiction.
yeah, and I worked for Dave Middleton down at Encinal, down in South Texas, and some of the stories are, because that's where the book is the people in the book is located, is down in South Texas, and so I pretty much made the whole book out of down from Nixon and Encinal and Freer and down in that area.
You already mentioned that you serve at school. What do the kids
Oh, yeah.
call you?
Cowboy Bob.
Yeah. Yeah.
The main thing they want me to do is yodel. Yodel-lady, yeah, yodel-lady, yodel, yodel-lady. I'm yodel-lady, yeah, yodel-lady, yodel, little lady, yeah, yodel-lady, yodel, little lady.
Wow.
So what's the classroom like with you?
With his stories and poems and
Oh
yodeling.
my gosh, you got a captive audience. You know,
Yeah.
more than any other teacher.
Yeah. Well, I did a poems and stories for all the 4th grade class last year, and one of the teachers said, "These kids are quieter than we've ever seen them before." So I guess I got their attention.
It's fascinating.
does anyone else have any other questions for Bob?
How are you related to the Kahlas and Beach?
Oh yeah. Well, their grandpa, Barney Kahla, was my grandpa's brother. My grandpa moved to Stoll, and Barney moved to. First, he moved to High Island, where he married Claire May, and she was Claire May was his daughter, Claire White, and Claire Kahla.
Kayla married young.
Uncle Barney was a character. He was a real funny guy.
And
Yeah.
Clara married Bill White, correct? I
Yeah.
mean Jamie White.
Jamie
Excuse me.
White.
Yeah, Bill's that
Claire
was Bill's
May,
mama.
Claire May did, huh?
Yeah.
The fourth, I think.
Mhm.
J.T. White the fourth, Bobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Elton Lede just commented that you still got the song.
Yeah, well, great. Good for him. Good deal. Good.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, thank you so much, Bob, and thank you all for coming and being part of this evening. It was wonderful.
Good to see you, dear.
Thank you.
You're welcome.